Johnny Frank Garrett was 17 years old when he was accused of murder. He was accused of killing a 76-year-old nun who lived across the street from his home in a convent. Garrett denied committing the crime, but in 1981 he was tried and convicted. In 2004, new DNA evidence was found linking a different man to the crime, proving Garrett's innocence. Unfortunately, he had already been executed in 1992. I'm Callie, and today I'm talking about capital punishment, which is a current issue in our court system. Capital punishment is an unjust form of punishment that takes the lives of innocent people and must be abolished. I feel I have credibility to talk about this topic because it's something I'm very interested in. I understand both sides of the argument, but I've done research to figure out what side I'm on, and I feel very passionate about it. I'm going to discuss why capital punishment is unjust due to its unconstitutionality, the execution of the innocent, results of abolishment in other countries, cost of execution, and the deterrence effect. Capital punishment, or the death penalty, is the legal practice of killing someone as a form of punishment. It is costly, inefficient, and has data supporting its ineffectivity. The first point I'm going to discuss is its unconstitutionality. According to History.com editors, in their 2010 article titled Supreme Court Strikes Down Death Penalty, in Furman v. Georgia, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled from a vote from 5 to 4 that capital punishment, as currently employed on the state and federal levels, was unconstitutional. This decision was made in 1976. The court felt that capital punishment was in disagreement with the Eighth Amendment, which talks about excessive fines, excessive bail, and the infliction of cruel and unusual punishment. The court had felt that at the time, the way capital punishment was being carried out and the methods used were inhumane and in disagreement with the Eighth Amendment. At the time of the decision, the majority of America was still in favor of the death penalty, so instead of abolishing it at that moment, they reinstated the death penalty with stricter laws and guidelines in order to ensure that the way these executions were being carried out were more humane. Now that I've discussed the unconstitutionality of capital punishment, I'm going to discuss the execution of the innocent. Far too many times, innocent people have been sentenced to death. According to a 2019 article, The Death Penalty in 2019 Year-End Report from the Death Penalty Info Center, 3 more former death row prisoners were exonerated in 2019. This increased the number of documented U.S. death row exonerations to 167. This means that 167 people have been sentenced to death and further found innocent. According to a 2013 CNN article, Death Penalty Fast Facts, that was updated in July of 2020, since 1976, when the death penalty was reinstated, the states have executed 1,516 people. These two numbers show the frightening ratio comparing the number of people executed and those who are found innocent. This is a major issue and results in the loss of innocent lives. Now that I've discussed the execution of innocents, I'm going to talk about abolishment in other countries. Many countries have completely abolished the death penalty and seen positive results. To give you a better idea of just how many countries have done so, according to Amnesty.org, in a 2020 article titled Death Penalty in 2018, Facts and Figures, 106 countries had completely abolished the death penalty by the end of 2019. In 2018, the Abdurrahman Borman Center of Iran's Rights.org wrote an article examining data from studies looking at the trends in murder rates in 11 countries. In their article titled, What Happens to Murder Rates When Death Penalty is Scrapped? A Look at 11 Countries Might Surprise You, they found the following in reference to a graph of the data. As these graphs demonstrate, death penalty abolition correlated on average with a decline in murder rates in 11 countries where data was provided. In fact, as the last graph trend indicates, a country in this set could expect approximately 6 less murders for each 100,000 people in about 10 years after abolishment. So now that I've discussed 3 points made by those who oppose the death penalty, I'm going to talk about 2 arguments made by those who agree with the death penalty. These 2 arguments are the cost of a life sentence and the deterrence effect. Those who argue that the death penalty is a good idea argue that the cost of a life sentence, which is the alternative, is too expensive. It is a great deal of money for a prisoner to spend time in jail, but let's compare the numbers to the cost of an execution. Joel Shannon of the York Daily Record wrote a 2017 article titled "PA Spends Over $40,000 per year on an Inmate." In 2015, PA spent $42,727 per year per inmate. This data was concluded by the Vera Institute of Justice in their May 2017 report, Price of Prisons. This price is due to labor cost, prison maintenance, and health care for inmates. In comparison, the Death Penalty Information Center wrote an article in 2014 titled "PA Death Penalty Costs Estimated $350 Million." According to the Death Penalty Information Center, in a series of articles analyzing Pennsylvania's death penalty, the Reading Eagle found that Pennsylvania taxpayers have spent over $350 million over a period where 3 executions were held, all of which the inmates had dropped their appeals. This price is due to legal costs, jury selection, and the cost of incarceration for the inmate while waiting their trial. These are just a few examples of costs, but there are also many more. So to compare these 2 costs, take the price of 3 executions, which was $350 million, divide that by 3, and you get the price of 1 execution, which is $116.7 million. Let's return to that first number. It costs $42,727 a year per inmate to go to jail, to spend time in jail. If you divide the total number it costs 1 execution by the total price of 1 year in jail, you'll find that an inmate would have to spend 2,731 years in jail in order for their life sentence to cost more than an execution. The second argument made by those in favor of the death penalty is the effect of deterrence. They argue that the punishment of death is enough to prevent crime and to scare people away from committing them. David Mulhausen of the Daily Signal wrote an article in 2014 titled "Capital Punishment Works. It Deters Crime." According to his article, in a more recent study by Kenneth Land of Duke University and others, from the years of 1994 to 2005, executions in Texas resulted in a decrease in murders up to 2.5. Although this study does show a decrease in murders, there's no direct link between the number of murders and the fear of the death penalty. According to the Death Penalty Information Center's 2019 article titled "Murder Rate of Death Penalty States Compared to Non-Death Penalty States," in 2018, states with the death penalty had an average of 5.3 murder rate, and states without the death penalty had an average murder rate of 4.1. In addition to this data, there was a graph shown comparing the murder rates between states with the death penalty and without. Each year from 1990 to 2018, the states without the death penalty had consistently lower murder rates each year. If the death penalty is truly a deterrent, the murder rate should be higher in the states without a death penalty. Furthermore, crimes are often committed in a state of extreme emotion or under the influence of drugs and alcohol. These decisions are not made rationally, and they are usually spontaneous, so that means the person isn't considering the consequence of their decision. On the other hand, if a crime is predetermined, then they're going to consider how it's going to happen from A to B. If they plan premeditated how they're going to complete this crime, they're going to plan how they're going to avoid the consequence. Finally, if a serious punishment is enough to deter crime, a life sentence should be enough. So that's why capital punishment is unjust due to its unconstitutionality, the execution of the innocent, results of abolishment, cost of execution, and deterrence effect. Johnny Frank Garrett was not the first and won't be the last innocent person killed. Carlos DeLuca, Larry Griffin, Troy Davis, and Leo Jones all have similar stories of trial and execution. Abolishing capital punishment would save money, resources, but most importantly, lives. My name is Callie, and the purpose of this speech was to argue that capital punishment must be abolished. Thank you for your time. Any questions?